This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, much sought after rapid antigen tests have arrived in Queenstown after a group banded together to place a big order. New Zealand's travelled borders are open to vaccinated New Zealanders from midnight on Wednesday. And the Mosgiel Pool building work reaches a significant milestone with heavy support beams lifted into place. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Daryl Baser. A month ago, the Queenstown Airport Corporation was able to put in an order for COVID-19 rapid antigen tests. The corporation invited 40 other local businesses to join in with the order, which eventually ballooned to more than 30,000 tests being purchased.
Finally arrived. More than 30,000 rapid antigen tests were delivered to Queenstown yesterday. The tests had been ordered a month ago by the Queenstown Airport Corporation, and CEO Glenn Sowery says it was able to place an order on behalf of 40 local businesses.
It was a really good opportunity for Queenstown businesses to be able to piggytail, if you like, off the back of our order to keep their people safe and to ensure that they could preserve business continuity now that we're in peak Omicron.
The 40 Queenstown businesses getting the tests are mainly working in the tourism industry and include Real NZ, which purchased 1,000.
Focus and prioritise our frontline staff, in particular those who work in remote locations in critical roles, or those who are in some of our overnight experiences and who bring passengers on for a few days at a time. It gives our staff some comfort, but it also gives our guests reassurance.
Real NZ Chief Executive Stephen England Hall says trading conditions of late have been extremely tough, but they're looking forward to the day when tourists are back. In Queenstown, the South Today.
16 all-bus services in Dunedin were cancelled at short notice last night due to a number of drivers being sick. 5 bus routes were affected and 16 bus journeys were cancelled. Vans replaced buses on some of the routes. The Otago Regional Council says customers should prepare for travel disruptions to bus services. It says there is a national shortage of bus drivers, which limits the flexibility for cover for those drivers who are away sick. The government received advice from the COVID-19 advisory group about a way forward as the Omicron wave reaches its peak. The Prime Minister and Professor Sir David Skegg shared the major changes to the nation's borders. Fully vaccinated, COVID-free travellers can enter New Zealand without needing to self-isolate from tomorrow.
Testing will remain critical, as Professor Skegg has set out. And so we will still require every traveller to undertake a rapid antigen test on the day they arrive and on day 5, 6. All positive rats must be registered and followed up with a PCR test.
Jacinda Ardern announced the changes in her post-cabinet briefing after listening to advice from the COVID advisory group led by Professor Sir David Skegg of Otago University, who joined the media briefing via Zoom.
The proportion of arriving travellers who are infected has declined, and the incidence of COVID-19 infections in our community has massively increased, as we had to expect. So given the rapid change in risks posed, we believe it's now appropriate to drop the requirement for self-isolation of fully vaccinated travellers.
The news has been welcomed by Dunedin's Emma Gilmore, who's currently in managed isolation quarantine in Rotorua on her way back from the first race in the Extreme E Series in Saudi Arabia. She says the government's decision will make it easier for her to take part in the Extreme E Series around the world and also in Rally New Zealand, among other activities closer to home.
For me, it means that I can now plan when I'll be able to come home and have a lot more freedom for my race calendar for overseas this year, taking part in the Extreme E Series with McLaren and being able to get home to Dunedin for my business.
Gilmore says the decision is about time and is set to be a relief for many New Zealanders.
It's well overdue. I've been one of the lucky ones that has actually been able to get a spot in MIQ. But yeah, this news means that families can be reunited again, and in the unfortunate incidences of people needing to travel quickly for family emergencies, they'll be able to get home. So it's wonderful news.
The wave of COVID infections is still growing, with 372 new cases reported yesterday in the southern DHB area, as part of more than 14,000 new cases around the nation. In Dunedin, the South Today. It's been an isolated start to semester for students and teaching staff alike at the University of Otago. Lectures began yesterday on the typically bustling Dunedin campus. The university decided in early February lectures would move online until at least the mid-semester break. Classes of fewer than 20 students can continue to meet, provided public health guidelines are followed, through social distancing and mask wearing. Lecturers say teaching via Zoom helps students to continue to learn in challenging times. However, they say it's harder to bond with new students on Zoom rather than in person. The building of the new pool complex at Mosgiel has reached a significant milestone. The first prefabricated concrete walls are up and the first 5-ton steel frames have gone into place. A support beam is swung into place before workers secure it to a wall. Cook Brothers Construction Mosgiel Pool site manager Scott Milne says it's a big day for the multi-million-dollar project.
Well, today we've been lifting steel in, the first big structural beam going right through we're lifting in, so it'll probably take them all day to get it in.
The Mosgiel Pool Trust fundraised $4.2 million, with the Dunedin City Council budgeting more than $10 million on the pool as part of its 10-year plan through to 2028. The project manager says the shell of the old Mosgiel pool is still coming in handy.
The perfect opportunity was this. The only idea was how we're going to get all these big beams in and out. So yes, so we come up with a wee hoist to lift them out and rollers and that there, so we'll load them out and then they'll get stacked outside and then we'll turn around and do another lot in there which will get stored up. And
global supply chains, along with many workplaces, have been majorly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. While he admits the project hasn't come away unscathed, he says they've gotten off pretty lightly so far.
Nothing at the moment. We've had a few wee scares with certain people. One young fella was at Castle Street, but no, he came back negative, and so we've had nothing yet, but ask me that in 2 to 3 weeks' time and it might be a different story.
The new facility is set to feature 4 water spaces, lap, learners, toddlers and hydrotherapy pools, as well as a spa pool, which will be fully accessible, while the car park is set to include e-vehicle and e-bike charging stations. The project has a completion date of mid-2023. In Dunedin, the South Today. And still to come on the South Today, we meet the young plumber of the year, who's the first of her kind to take the title, and a nearly 50-year-old combine harvester in South Otago gets a new lease on life. See you after the break.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put Some Colour in Your Life, Tuesdays, 7:30.
Hi, we're Age Concern Otago.
Age Concern Otago hosts a multitude of social activities, including little walks.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
My Mate John's massive store-wide sale finishes this weekend. The big one. John's taken a massive 20% off store-wide with up to 80% off clearance items. This is your last chance to bag a bargain with 20 to 80% off Dunedin's biggest range of furniture and beds. The big one. Final weekend at John's Furniture Warehouse, Stafford Street, or online at www.mymatejohn.co.nz.
That furniture from Stafford Street and My Mate John.
Spark your joy with jazz, the next generation from Honda.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Hi there, guess who? You recognise the eyes? Oh, okay, it's a haircut. Anyway, it's Lindsay here from Campbell's Menswear. Our 3 stores are carrying on as usual. Despite what's happening in the world, we have got some great stock for you. Personally, I've spent 50 years in this business and we have some excellent supplier relationships. We've got great stock, it's hand-picked, it's here, it's on time, and it's ready for this great summer.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So, as my favourite cup says, keep calm and carry on.
Every day the team at Gillian supports grieving families at their time of need, from answering your questions to organising a farewell that reflects the wishes of your loved one. We can help. Call Gillian's today.
No mai no, welcome back. There were emotional scenes at Christchurch International Airport as the first MIQ-free flight from Australia touched down. The service from Brisbane follows 5 other Australian flights to Auckland, marking the start of the government's Reopening New Zealand program.
Tears of joy echo through the arrivals lounge at Christchurch International Airport as passengers are greeted by friends and family. Arriving passengers were given an extra welcome home from Air New Zealand's Senior Manager Rachel Lilly, who handed out New Zealand-themed care packages to returning passengers.
We're handing out some welcome home kits to our travellers. We've got some things to help isolation go a little bit more smoothly. So we've got some L&P, some chocolate, some skipping ropes, and the good old kiwi as well.
Passengers were also greeted with the news of the government's plans to end self-isolation requirements for vaccinated trans-Tasman travellers from 11:59 p.m. this Wednesday. Many people at Christchurch Airport say it was about time restrictions were removed for returning Kiwis. Most have been waiting to come home for too long. The government also announced from 11:59 p.m. Friday the borders will be open to Kiwis anywhere in the world, and they too would not be required to self-isolate if fully vaccinated. Flights from Australia are expected to pick up throughout March, with Air New Zealand expecting up to 300 flights. Major airlines are expecting more than 10,000 people to fly from Australia to New Zealand this week alone. The government is planning to progressively remove more travel restrictions throughout the year. In Christchurch, the South today.
Wanaka plumber Veronica Kreitner is delighted to have made history for women in the construction industry. The 28-year-old was crowned Young Plumber of the Year 2021 at an event in Hamilton last weekend, winning a stack of tools and accessories. Wanaka plumber Veronica Kreitner has smashed a glass ceiling, becoming the first woman to be named Young Plumber of the Year.
I think it's pretty insane still. Can't really believe it yet. What's all happening. It's just, it's cool to, it's an achievement. It's just...
10 young plumbers represented their regions in a weekend-long competition of written theory and practical tests, including a 4-hour installation of a bathroom kit, featuring shower and hot water cylinder, toilet and hand basin from scratch. Originally from Germany, Kreitner has called Wanaka home for a decade, and after doing cafe work, fell into plumbing while at a bar.
I got into plumbing for a friend. We were hanging out at the pub, as you do, and she mentioned to me that her partner and his firm were looking for another apprentice, and I decided to change my careers anyway, so I thought plumbing was a good idea. Don't really know why, I just thought it's, something interesting, something you can just, try out.
The competition recognises excellence among young plumbers aged 31 and under and has a total prize pool of $55,000. Crichton was selected as a wildcard entrant and is the first female to have won the event since it began in 2017. In Wanaka, the South Today. In 1978, a crop farmer near Balclutha bought his first combine harvester. Little did he know he'd still occasionally be using it about 50 years later.
Still going strong after almost 60 years. This now antique class combine harvester dates back to the 1960s and is proudly owned by Tom Whiteside of Waiwera South, halfway between Balclutha and Clinton.
Just a piece of nostalgia. I get it out every second year to chase the rats and bird's nests, get the bird's nests out, and and it's still in good working order considering it was built in 1964.
Whiteside owned this actual machine in the late 70s and early 80s for cropping wheat and barley. He eventually sold it to a Mossburn farm and then saw it again in a shed 3 years ago and was bitten by the nostalgia bug.
A few years ago I was going past on the road and saw my old header in the shed, and basically, long story short, I repurchased it. For the $1,200 I sold it, I repurchased it back for $1,200.
The old harvester has 60 horsepower, in contrast to modern machines which are equipped with 400 horsepower and can harvest close on 8 times as much in a day. Whiteside says there's also a huge difference with modern machines having air-conditioned cabs, compared to the poor operator being exposed to the elements on this old machine.
Well, the cabs are just like in a motor car or a modern truck, all air-conditioned, all climate control, never sitting in any dust. And nowadays, compared to have the mask on to keep the dust out of my lungs, eye protection to keep the dust out of my eyes, and the ear muffs to keep the noise down to a reasonable level.
While this old clunker cost little more than $1,000 3 years ago, new ones can easily fetch more than $600,000. In Balclutha, the South Today.
And after the break on the South Today, there's more discussion about Oamaru's Forester Heights subdivision, and we have a look at your midweek weather. See you soon.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put Some Colour in Your Life, Tuesdays, 7:30.
Livingwell Disability Resource Centre, a not-for-profit charitable organisation and your one-stop shop for information and resources to help you retain independence. We offer a wide range of assistive products from jar openers to mobility scooters and provide assessments for Total Mobility, the half-price taxi scheme. Come and see the friendly team. You'll find us on the corner of George and Bath Streets, ground floor of Burns House.
My Mate John's massive store-wide sale finishes this weekend. The big one. John's taken a massive 20% off store-wide with up to 80% off clearance items.
And my mate John.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
Hi, my name's Matt and I'm the Dines Group CEO. Dines is a company that's focused on selling logistics solutions to its customers. We're passionate about selling efficiency and we've been selling efficiency for over 50 years now.
What have you got? Okay.
Chicks World, party time, excellent.
Love it! Chicks World! Chicks World! Right.
Thanks for staying with us. Waitaki District Councillors have voted unanimously to continue with public consultation on the future of Forester Heights. The undeveloped council-owned land above Oamaru Harbour could be sold to a land developer, turned into a reserve, or just left as a land bank. Mayor Gary Kirscher says making the right decision is an important step and the community needs to have its say. The only way the land can become a reserve is through a petition to Parliament. Members of Otago Museum's Tuhura Club are finding out what is fiction and what is fact in the world of sci-fi. The club, created for Dunedin school children, is aiming to inspire younger children and the young generation in science.
Exploring the science of science fiction are members of the Otago Museum Tuhura Club. Guide Ashley Stewart says this term the After School Science Club is contrasting movie depictions of science with real-life examples.
We're trying to bring together all the kids who are really passionate and inspired by science and try and give them an opportunity to kind of bring that out and try a whole bunch of new things that they wouldn't normally get to do. So today we've been talking about space, specifically kind of science fiction, and going into faster than light being the main theme, talking about light-based technologies that you see in movies like holograms, lightsabers and tractor beams.
One activity uses reflective plastic to create simple holograms.
Holograms have been, the ones that we use today have been going since the 1800s, being used in theatre, and we're still using those same tricks today.
Another experiment uses ultraviolet light to create static images.
Even light that you can't quite see with the naked eye can still be picked up by objects around us. So we got them to stand in front of a sheet that had phosphorus painted onto it, and when we shined the ultraviolet light out, it left a silhouette around their body.
Stewart says he loves his role explaining science to children.
There's that kind of spark when in someone's eye when they kind of get something, when they learn something for the first time, or something that they engage with every day suddenly makes sense to them in a new light. That's a feeling that never gets old, when you can show someone something that is going to stick with them forever.
In Dunedin, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Much sought after rapid antigen tests have arrived in Queenstown after a group of organisations banded together to place a big order. New Zealand's travel borders are open to vaccinated New Zealanders from midnight Wednesday, pleasing a Dunedin sportswoman currently in MIQ. And the Mosgiel Pool building work reaches a significant milestone, with heavy support beams being lifted into place. Time now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's Otago Times. We welcome Associate Editor Joe Simpson. Kia ora, Joe.
Hi. The Southland District Health Board predicts that there's going to be at least another 10 to 12 weeks of the Omicron outbreak still to go for the South. Waiting lists for cancer treatment in the South will not go down without the Health Board hiring more staff, says a new report commissioned by the Southland District Health Board. People are wondering where they might source rat tests, and businesses feel they're being ripped off. So where do you go to find rat tests? You have to read tomorrow. And 3 years after being wounded in the March 15th terror attacks, Timor is walking the route the terrorists took to Christchurch. But the survivor says he's supporting peace and unity rather than hatred and division.
Inspiring little stories. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All that and more in tomorrow's ODT. Time now for a look at tomorrow's weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the situation, there's a cold day in store tomorrow as a southerly airflow eases out and dies away later in the day. Light frosts are possible in many areas tomorrow night. And heading to the southern towns, Light southerlies with mostly fine skies everywhere. The Catlins and Balclutha aim for 15 degrees, while it's due to be one better in Lumsden and Gore, as you're both aiming for 16. Heading across to central Otago, Te Anau is in for light southerlies, mostly fine skies and 15 degrees. The skies are due to clear and there'll be light winds in store for Wanaka, Queenstown and Alexandra, who are all heading for 16 degrees. Further north, the coastal towns can expect cloudy skies and light southerlies with 15 degrees for Timaru and Oamaru, while it's becoming fine and slightly warmer inland with 16 degrees for Twizel and Omarama. And in Dunedin, showers tonight with cold gusty southerlies and an overnight low of 9 degrees. Tomorrow, any remaining showers quickly clear in the morning. It'll be dry and mostly cloudy for some of the day. A high of 14 and a low of 4 degrees. Expect for it to be mostly fine and sunny on Thursday, with moderate northerlies in the morning and moderate southwesterlies in the afternoon. A high of 16 and a low of 8 degrees. And in Invercargill, showers clearing tonight with an overnight low of 9 degrees. Becoming fine and sunny during the morning tomorrow, with cool southerlies dying out. Light frosts are possible tomorrow evening, a high of 16 and a low of 1 degree. It'll be fine and sunny on Thursday with a high of 17 and a low of 6 degrees. And that's all from the South Today team from across Tuaipanamu this Tuesday. For the latest news and videos from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and you can follow Channel 39 on YouTube to catch our news bulletins on demand. Nō reira, kia pai te pō, ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.